Hey guys, King of Charmanders here, and today I bring you a video on the best Bazelgeuse Weapons guide. All weapon types, and is this the new blast meta? Well, this video analyzes the weapons of the new boss monster of Season 4, and the Bazelgeuse weapons are blast weapons, except for the light bowgun, which is fire. And they also currently have the highest base attack out of all the blast weapons in the game. Moving on, we have the list of Bazelgeuse weapons. You have the longsword, which is the Bazelgeuse Rookslayer, the light bowgun, which is the Bazel Typhoon, the dual blades, which is the Bazel Hawk Rookslayer, the lance, which is the Bazel Menade Rookslayer, the gun lance, which is the Bazel Buster, and finally the switch axe, which is the Bazel Raider. So you want to build these weapons? Well, the Bazelgeuse weapons, here's their fort stats. The weapons start at grade 5, with their element being blast except for the light bowgun, which is fire. Their base raw attack is 495, while the light bowgun is 368. And the base elemental status attack buildup is 210, while the light bowgun is 292. And the base affinity is negative 30%, with the light bowgun being the same. And as you upgrade the Bazelgeuse weapons to max, the raw attack will become very high. So yes, Bazelgeuse, grade 5, meaning you're going to need a lot of materials and a lot of zenny for them when you max them or try to max them out. If you want to forge the Bazelgeuse weapons, well, here's what you need. You need 6 Bazelgeuse scales, which are rarity 1, 8 Machalite ores, which are rarity 2, 2 Bazelgeuse claws, which are rarity 3, 2 Bazelgeuse wings, which are rarity 4, and you also need 1500 zenny. And if you're crazy enough to max out the Bazelgeuse weapons, well, here's their max stats. At grade 10.5, the element will be blast, of course the light bowgun is fire. The max raw attack is 2,327, while the light bowgun is 1,579. And the max elemental status attack buildup will be 309, while the light bowgun will have elemental attack at 1,568. And the max affinity is 30%, negative 30%, so it's it's negative. And once maxed out, the Bazelgeuse weapons have a ridiculously high attack value. So yeah, 2,327 is big. Unfortunately, the light bowgun does not have that, and we'll get back to that later. However, if you're crazy enough to max out the Bazelgeuse weapons, here's the grade 10.5 max cost. And as you see, the Bazelgeuse weapons have their own rare 6 material, the Bazelgeuse plate, as well as requiring Magna Malo parts to build and max out, so hopefully you already have these, otherwise better start going after the Magna Malos. In addition, you will need 25 weapon refining parts and 425,000 zenny. And from personal experience, assuming you're doubling your rarity 6 materials, you can achieve this result in 400 to 500 Bazelgeuse, or earlier if you're lucky. If you are lucky. Next up, we have the Blast Monster types damage comparison, and here we take a look at all the Blast Monster types as of Season 4 Roars from the Winter Wind. And as you see per the data, Bazelgeuse is the strongest. However, Bazelgeuse weapons have a lower blast value than the rest of its counterparts. So if you take a look right there, it's 300. The rest are 500 and up. So, the thing about it is, ultimately this doesn't matter. Because blast is inflicted less over time and a majority of your damage will come from your weapon. So, at most you'll probably be able to do 5 to 7 blasts. But again, out of the builds and everything like that, your raw damage is going to matter the most. That's why burst is the biggest one. And here again, for the third time, raw damage over blast value. And what makes the Bazelgeuse weapons so unique is that each weapon type has its own equipment skill. The longsword has quick work level 1, which becomes ever so slightly faster at sheathing or transforming your weapon. The light bowgun has evading reload level 2, which grants a 50% chance to file/ammo being refilled by 1 when evading while equipped with a gun lance, charge blade, light bowgun, or heavy bowgun. The dual blades have critical furiosity, which reduces weapons affinity by 10%, but grants a small chance of increasing negative affinity damage to 150%. In addition, you have the lance, which gives you offensive guard level 2, which increases attack power by 15% for 10 seconds after executing a well-timed guard. You have the gun lance, which will give you artillery, which increases damage of gun lance's ammo / wyvern's fire attacks, charge, file attacks, and sticky ammo by 10%. And lastly, you have the switch axe, which gives you burst level 2, which landing consecutive hits in a short span of time increases attack power by 10% for 4 seconds. That is the most iconic explosion in anime. You can't say otherwise. Otherwise, you're not a fan. I'm just kidding. Anyways, here's the overall analysis on the Bazelgeuse weapons. Bazelgeuse weapons are powerful, but they're really hard to go after. Outside of events, your best bet is to probably find friends who paintball them if you are lucky enough to play in a community. You know, like me, which is a solo player, so I don't have that ability. Or if you can't drive, you kinda have to walk, so that means finding Bazelgeuse is being a giant pain in the butt. Unless, again, you live in a community with a lot of spawns, etc., like in Japan. And due to this, you may not need them considering there are other blast weapons out there. By the time Bazelgeuse came out, Magnum Malo and Teostra have been out for a while, so those are much cheaper, much less of a pain to go after, and you don't need to find it, although I know some of you are Bazelgeuse enthusiasts despite the fact of how annoying this thing is in the main series, but yeah. So you might not need them. If you want them, more power to you. And overall, again, unless you really like Bazelgeuse, it's really not worth it. However, most of the weapons do have great equipment skills. Unfortunately, for you charged gun lance users, wide shelling isn't ideal, so even though you get artillery, it's not great. So the gun lance is not really a good thing to go after. But again, for the longsword, you have quick work. For switch axe, you have burst level 2. So there are great things out here. And like lance has offensive guard, so they do have uses. I am back. It's been a long time, but yeah, I have a kid in the top 100 as far as wrestling in California. I've been ultra busy. Life has been creeping up on me, but I've been able to make time now to be able to make content again. So really appreciate y'all, especially y'all that still are here, and for y'all that do miss you, I appreciate you. And for you that don't, well, guess what? Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Or I'll just show you the door. Anyways, please do me a huge favor. Like, subscribe, and comment for the YouTube algorithm. Good luck on your grinds. Hopefully y'all have been having a blast, quite literally. And I will see y'all on the next video.